Okay, here we go. Hi, and welcome to the meditation conversation. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin. Thanks for joining. Today, I'm so excited. We have award-winning artist, Michelle Qureshi, who is a composer, a multi-instrumentalist, and a classically trained guitarist who marries the mystical and contemporary with her unique and ethereal sound. In 2020, she was signed as a Mindstream artist, and she performs house concerts and festivals, yoga studios, and sound immersions, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, with albums that are heard globally on new age, ambient, and guitar programs. Michelle, you have a quote on your website from Michael Diamond, which says, "She seems more of a sonic sorceress using a wide range of instruments and technology in her artistic alchemy," which I thought was beautifully encapsulating of your music and your performances. And so I love that, a sonic sorceress.
I liked that too. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. That was like one of the earlier reviews when I just kind of stepped into and found this kind of new age music scene that was kind of like part of Zone Music Reporter, and that there was this whole, albeit tiny fraction of the music world, but a small group of people who listen and love and create new age music. And he unfortunately, he passed within like 6 months of writing that, but he was very
What?
active
Oh
writer.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So it was
Wow.
like 2016. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
thought that that was a wonderful way of putting it.
Yeah, and I
Sonic
love
sorcery.
the artistic alchemy as well, because there
Yeah.
really is such a blend with the contemporary and just the nature. I mean, you
Uh-huh.
incorporate, at least with the harmonic sound immersion, a lot of natural and kind of tonal things
Hmm.
as well, which really does provide like an alchemy, or has like a whole
Uh,
balance to it.
yeah, a
And
dimension
yeah,
of like bringing it like
yeah.
into kind of an otherworldliness, which is that musical portal, with the familiarity of, our crickets and these sounds and the waves and the wind,
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally know Michelle from her harmonic sound immersion, which I alluded to before. These are live shows where she plays, and she, as we were mentioning, she kind of uses the sounds of nature and then adds in tones from singing bowls and vibrations from wind instruments and melodies from the guitar and other instruments. And then participants just lie down, and then the sounds just like wash over you, and the vibrations just kind of, it's, you've heard me say many times, Michelle, when I've introduced you, of like,
Mhm.
it's like a passive meditation, because in meditation so often we're sitting up and we're kind of trying to be active,
Mhm.
and purposeful in the concentration. And with yours, you can really just kind of let go and like relax into it and surrender.
Mhm.
And then often you're just kind of taken on this journey. It's really powerful, and it's relaxing and profound. And it's been known to invoke emotional cleansing and visions. And,
Mhm.
I've heard, I have personally haven't experienced tears during it, but I know that
Uh-huh.
people have just kind of spontaneously, you know, needed to release in
Right,
that
right.
way.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
But I know I've had some pretty trippy experiences with
It's a good word
them.
for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about it too, because it's the bringing together of, an audience of who I don't know who it's going to be, or
Mm,
even while I'm doing it. All I know is I kind of get pulled and taken in different directions because anything on the live instruments is improvised.
yeah.
I have like a transitional sounds that I have some aspects of that I'll play from my phone, or a virtual instrument played from my phone, but then pick up the guitar and I'll feel uh, being led to this piece or to go that direction. And so it's a trip for me. And the more I'm doing it, especially since there was this pandemic gap. I
Yeah.
did one like February 29th. And then after that, it was like, oh, these aren't happening until I was, grateful to be brought into the one that I did for your retreat, which was
Mm, that was
late
so
August.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
last
was
weekend of
super.
August.
Yeah. So, and that was my first outdoor one. That was my first one to realize you don't really need to try to control this so hard, Michelle. This has its own direction.
Yeah,
You
which
need
I
to
wanted to
like
talk to you
enjoy it
about.
more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because when you told me later that as you like, so you and I, we worked together in a retreat that
Mhm.
where you did your first harmonic sound immersion for many months, as you mentioned,
6,
and
really, isn't it? It's not just
yeah.
many, it's a lot.
Right, because
Yeah.
we were supposed to do it
Do this
in
in March.
March.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
then
it
it was
was like
closed down.
the first thing
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
like, okay, something weird is going on and we can't even have this retreat now. But
Yeah.
um and so you were telling me that when you arrived to do the harmonic sound immersion, there was just this whirlwind of kind of a lot of activity and a lot of confusion. And I mean, even to the extent that as you were trying to get to the location,
Hmm.
like it looked like the road was going to be blocked. And so
Hmm.
it's just kind of like arriving in this whirlwind where I know that what you're trying to induce in other people is this release in this environment of like, okay, let's be calm and let's really kind of tap into our higher consciousness and
Hmm.
all of that. And so I was intrigued when you told me, because there was a lot of emotion going on, and
Yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
you were saying that you just need to kind of get out of the way, and it was kind of a lesson from that
Yeah, to
perspective.
trust that. Yeah, because there was, like we said, so much almost chaos and some confusion and I just kept saying, how am I going to get in the right state of mind? And that my lesson, my teacher at that point was that chaos, to realize, you don't get into that frame of mind. You're just open, and then you're
Yeah,
taken.
yeah,
So that was a really beautiful experience. And then
yeah,
um and I'm excited to, I've done another one since we met, which you attended.
yeah.
And that was the first indoor, but, socially distanced one.
Hmm. And you
So it
even
was,
had Zoom attendees with that one, which was also a
yes,
first. Yeah, I
right,
think,
right.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first. Yeah. Generally,
Yeah.
I mean, under normal conditions, I would not advocate for that, because that means I don't really get to feel their energies, because they're not present. Whoever they are, I don't even know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And just the translation of the sounds, like you said, it's something to be felt as much as heard.
Yeah,
The
but
experience. Yeah.
I do know one of the people who joined via Zoom, and she said it was very beautiful and powerful on
Oh,
her
no
side.
kidding.
So,
Thank you for that. I did not
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
good. I
she
can feel
said,
better about that.
yeah, she said, I really hope next time because it looked so beautiful. Just she's like
Yeah,
with the
that
way the
studio was
studio was
great.
lit
Yeah,
and
yeah,
with the instruments and everything,
yeah.
it looked so pretty. So she was like, I wished that I could have been in that vibe, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
she
in
still had a
time.
great experience.
Yeah, yeah. We all wish right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And that was what was so neat with the one at the retreat. Mentioned how it was outdoors.
Hmm.
And so as a participant, I was like, okay, I know she plays nature sounds,
Oh,
but I can't tell the
uh-huh.
difference between the crickets that are out,
Yeah, and
So
the
it was
ones coming from
really,
my speaker, which
yes.
truly are just real crickets too, but not in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
randomness of them. The exchange, I wonder if I confused the real crickets out there.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, what the heck? This is our area.
Yeah. Oh, and that was so funny because we just had also during the to just give an indication of how powerful this experience can be. So we were at the retreat, we didn't have exclusivity of the space. So we were in our own space, but then the surrounding area, there was some sort of like Jeep convention or something. They were doing some charity ride, and there's so all these Jeeps showed up and these people came out and they were all getting drinks. And so it was still like a little ways away from where we were, but there was a lot of chaos. And then there was a band. There was like a competing, like Irish sounding band,
Fiddle.
fiddle,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
something.
Loud.
And so we had, as the host of the retreat, I was kind of communicating a little bit, like coming out of my trance from from your work to kind of say to the owner over text, like, hey, the band started back up,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can hear it really clearly here. So
Yeah.
they were supposed to stop. But anyway, and then we also had people who came into the barn,
Oh,
like we
walk through
walked.
you guys. You guys were unaware, but I was like,
Yes.
I was trying
Like,
to hold, again, letting myself just be guided and let them be
yeah.
guided out of there. So
Right. But it's like this whole,
it
but
was, yeah.
it was so powerful. So regardless of having like even competing music at
Uh-huh.
the time, the participants who were there were spellbound, and they came
Yeah.
out and they were so relaxed. And it
Mhm.
feels almost like when you come back, it is almost like a coming back, like, okay, yeah, I
Right.
remember
Return to
now.
the body. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And this was one that I was fortunate enough that you allowed me to bring my daughter. I picked her up from the IU
Yeah.
campus, and we drove out together. And
Hmm.
she was particularly in that state of freshman during a pandemic at school. She really, really needed to let herself be you know. Um, calmed and a little bit freed by this. And
Hmm.
when she opened her eyes, she just said that was the best one ever. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Which says a lot, because I know she's been to
Yeah, yeah.
many.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, can you share a little bit about how music and sound work to connect you to source and your higher self? I know also, I think the very first time I met you
Hmm.
was when you came to one of my meditation classes
Yeah.
at Blooming Life Yoga in Zionsville, near where we are. That means nothing to many of our listeners,
That's okay.
but anyway, and I remember it was one of the early classes,
Mm.
one of the first ones. It might have even been the first one, but and you were talking about how, for you, being in the space of music really helps you to meditate. It's like a meditative experience for you.
Mhm.
So, which I know that anybody can appreciate from like a listening to music, particularly being in the harmonic sound immersion. But you even
Mhm.
have albums that are specifically geared toward meditation,
Mhm.
and of course, like that sound and vibration can be really helpful.
Mhm.
Um, but as a creator, so I can experience as a participant, but as
Uh-huh.
a creator, you mentioned before about just really opening yourself up, but I'm
Yeah.
curious about how it works for you as like a way to connect with your higher self.
Well, I think, I mean, if I look at my timeline, basically, as a musician, I was a teenager when I just was intrigued by guitar
Mm.
and went into, my teen years with that tool which was just indispensable in helping me with my self-expression and
Mm.
all those factors. My style was like whatever I listened to of pop and rock, and it was the like the 70s. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of different kind of music back then. I would get my hands on any kind of guitar and electric and steel string and mandolin. I even had a pedal steel guitar. So I
Mm.
did all this self teaching. But then I recognized, wait, I don't have any foundation. I have, good ears, but I don't have the tools of a trained musician. As much
Mhm.
as I try to get theory and connect it all, the fretboard is entirely different than a keyboard as far as like it's so simply explained on a keyboard. But the
Mm.
fretboard of the guitar and stringed instruments is less obvious, a little more
Mhm.
elusive, and therefore, to me, very, very intriguing. But long story short, is it was at that point when I was a young adult that I decided to study classical guitar and go into a
Mm.
region like, like everything I knew about guitar, they basically want to throw out the window
Oh,
because you have
really?
different technique, different training, different
Yeah.
everything. So I was game for that. And I think it was pretty great experience because it opened my eyes in many ways. Suddenly I had a foundation that I could draw upon from creativity. I had this teaching academically that went on and on about all uh, the theory and history and music of the Western world. But my school was enriched by these students from all over the world who brought, like uh, Hindustani music on original instruments, or music from China, or a koto player, a friend from Japan, and shakuhachi flute.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was not just the experience of being at the school, but it was the people who came there, and I learned from them as well. And so simultaneously developed this love of world music and sought what I could of that.
Is this in college?
This was in my college years. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So eventually I graduated with my degrees in guitar performance, and um, then kind of didn't do music for a couple decades,
Oh,
literally.
wow.
Had my daughter, raised her as she was getting a little, once she started in public school in third grade. She did Montessori before that, but once she started that, that bus would come pick her up right outside my window. And
Mm.
I was like, oh my gosh, I have 6 hours, to get
Yeah.
back to what, to my other passion besides being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started writing music, shared it with some friends who were like, this would be beautiful at the yoga studio. And
Mm.
like my very first album, it's just kind of like synthesizers. There's barely guitar in it,
Mm.
and that just kind of slowly evolved. But what I found is that pause when I thought I wasn't being a musician, I was still being a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And what that pause seemed to me to allow was that time to kind of ferment and take hold, that now when I picked up my guitar, I didn't really have to think about all that I learned, and I
Mm.
could just kind of be guided by intuitively by
Mm-hmm.
how to play, and what came in, like what always seemed like it just flowed through. And my lesson was like, every time I pick up the guitar, and this could hold to this morning, as recently as this morning,
Mm-hmm.
I pick it up as if I've never played it, and something new comes out. And it's my choice, my matter of discipline, if it becomes a new piece,
Yeah.
in a few hours or weeks or months, or if it just like, oh, I hope I remember this, and I don't,
Yeah.
unless it's on my iPhone. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
So it's been such a meditative experience for me to create music and make improvisation a big part of it, because that's where I really feel just it's a great thing. It's a great flow that you're connecting with your higher self.
Mm.
um, and my struggle, and you probably know it from me coming to meditation or seeing me at yoga, my struggle is being disciplined enough, as I am with music, to bring just pure meditation or pure yoga. I'm not
Mm.
disciplined enough like I am, that's my struggle. I want to
Okay.
have, say, yeah, it's beautiful. In fact, I was told by a Reiki teacher I worked with a while ago, like, you need to put your guitar down, you need
Mm.
to go direct. And um, I still kind of ignore that advice, but I might get it, but that's a lot to ask. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and if it is serving as a pathway and a connector,
Hmm.
then that is something, it's not to be discounted. What was interesting that you mentioned, which I wanted to take a moment with, was that pause. So
Hmm.
you talked about it from a lifetime of like 2 decades
Yeah.
where you were really not immersed in that
Yeah.
part of your life.
Right.
But then you also told me recently that you had the similar thing on a micro scale because of the pandemic, because of what we've talked about, how
You're
we
right.
had
Yeah.
that pause.
Hmm.
And so, you weren't able to perform. And
Hmm.
so when you next performed,
Hmm.
you mentioned that you were a little bit curious about what might happen, or maybe even a little bit worried of like, okay, I haven't done this for a while. Am I going to be rusty?
Yeah.
Am I going to, and so I would love for you to share how you actually felt.
Yeah, I love that you found that parallel because you're right, and it kind of goes with my thinking that, we never really aren't doing something that we think we're doing all the time, even when we stop it. Things it's still going. And what
Yeah.
seemed to happen to me from March until basically now was like a confidence and a belief in my music, even though I couldn't be standing there playing a guitar concert for people. Something still actually took the time to, what would you say? Something that was just enhanced about my confidence in what I'm doing, maybe in this silence,
Yeah.
It having this this album, which will be my sole release for 2020 after many manic years of just releasing so much music.
Yeah.
This I really, kind of hunkered down and looked at this instrument again, just for its solo potential. And right before we had to pause things for this pandemic, I had like my first So Far concert, which is it's a global little concert, house concert thing set up. I was to play in March, and I was going to premiere pieces from this new album. And in preparation for that, I had a couple friends who I'd been bringing one at a time, just, as intense as that can be, just say, here's this stool, sit down, please. I want to play, you know, 30 minutes of music nonstop for you of my solo pieces. And that growth was really great. It was really
Yeah.
good. I got a little piece of that. Maybe I did that about a half a dozen times. And then suddenly, it was just time to record the music. Did it, and sent that off for the mastering. And that will be, as I said, that will be released Friday. I'm super excited about it. But, something happened in that time when, I thought I was just worried and being, like everybody else, like anxious, the anxiety raising, a little, like even Michelle Obama, right? Lightly depressed, with all
Yeah.
this going, not really able to kind of pull out because of all those lifelines that were seemingly pulled out from under us,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I loved when you described it with the big pause. You said you'd been fermenting, which I think is a
Yeah.
beautiful way to
Yeah.
say that. And
Yeah.
it reminded me when you told me about that in the beginning, and I remember sharing this with you, but when I lived in Italy and I would go, I'd be immersed in the Italian language for 11 months. And then I would come back to America for a month to be with family during the summer break. And then I'd go back after being immersed in an English language for, a month, and I'd be nervous about like, oh gosh, I'm going to forget everything. I haven't spoken any Italian or very little, in 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm going to be lost. But it was like, it had given time for things to like settle and integrate and kind of like become more of a part of me instead of just sitting on the surface waiting for, it's like I'm picturing the Italian words just sort of sitting kind of on the surface of my skin, and I'm kind of picking them. Yeah. It's like, okay, that one might work, or, this is close enough or whatever. And it's like, in that pause, it's like it sinks into my skin and becomes like a part of who I am. And I found that every year that it worked the opposite. I was like, why am I better? Why am I more confident with, coming back in? So it's just funny that seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a
Well, it
human
just
thing.
reminds us, that how much we really don't understand about how our mind and brain works, and that we sometimes we just start off with the wrong assumption, we think, oh, I
Yeah.
got to keep practicing. And, you realize, you know what, back off,
Yeah.
let that, ferment,
Yeah.
and then distill your knowledge from that
Yeah.
experience,
I
Yeah.
wonder how much other cultures have caught on to this, and
Hmm.
like it's part of being American too, because we are so like, you work hard and that's how you get, I mean,
Yeah.
just as a society, we tend to be much more like, oh, I have to do the work. It's
Hmm.
not just going to happen. There's just, it's a very like, if I put in this, 10,000 hours,
Yeah, right. It's such a
you know?
strong work ethic, but it doesn't always
Yeah.
make sense,
Yeah.
I
Or it
get
doesn't always translate in the real world.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that expression? Is something about like work smarter, not harder or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
also again, that might just be something to sell books. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
True.
Hmm.
So, so you have found then through your practicing, just from that higher self perspective, you were
Hmm.
saying that just um, when you are connecting with your music, it's kind of like this pathway.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
It is.
opens things
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, things can just, I've had situations like where I'm playing and uh, one specific thing was like this at the Playful Soul years
Uh-huh.
ago, if you remember, if how would you describe it? Kind of a new agey kind of little shop that was having a fair with a lot of the kind of gifted people from our area, like kind of just open and sharing in this open house with what they do. And um, I was hired to just come and play, provide my kind of intuitive music.
Hmm.
And there was a woman across from me who I know, she's a friend now, very intuitive and I don't know what other words you'd want to use, but she was talking with someone uh, and they would turn and look at me like over the shoulder and like smile a little bit. And then it continued. And then I changed what I was playing. I was just improvising, right?
Hmm.
And she continued to be a little bit like giggling, and my more paranoid self felt like, well, may I ask what this is about,
Yeah.
And she said, no, she said it was just too funny. You were playing a music that reminded her of the movie she was talking about. And then they started talking about something else, and my music followed with whatever was reminiscent of what they were talking
No
about.
way. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. And so, that's how I know it just comes, it's just in the ethers, it just comes out of the air sometimes. When I
Yeah.
played, I used to play, probably about 3 years running, I'd play at a hospital here locally, but it wasn't the kind like for the patients. This was written into the hospital's bylaws that they would have music in the lobby for the sake of the staff, doctors and nurses, the visitors, in
Beautiful.
terms of, yeah, kind of providing like a perk of relaxing, beautiful music. And that would be my, 2 hours. I just go in and improvise. And I love
Yeah.
that. But I could, in the there were several times where, I was very close to the cappuccino machine, which was not great,
Oh, yeah.
but it was like a little cafe. And there were several times where, when the people would walk by me, I just could feel their tension. So then I'd start playing it. It's like I could feel their shoulders drop and their,
Oh,
relaxation come
man.
in. And
Yeah.
there were some characters that would come, like always sit down and eat their lunch, and act like they weren't listening, but I knew they were listening so hard.
Yeah.
And then you tie into those things, and a similar like thing where, I'm getting feedback, but sometimes I don't know what it means. And I was playing for a yoga class, and generally I kind of feel like it's going through. And then I mentioned after the class to the teacher, I was playing with one woman kind of very close to me, But I said, I just couldn't get through that wall. Somehow my music wasn't soothing her. And the teacher said, oh, she is so like, she's so full of cancer right now.
Oh
Like, and I was
gosh.
like, oh my God, I felt so, like
Oh,
I got that, but that could
yeah.
not penetrate at all that. Yet I knew there was some blockage, it
Mhm.
was really, so it's just kind of amazing, and I try not to attribute more than what I can really say was an experience. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
I
You
don't like
have
to be,
always been very
yeah,
careful about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's there it is you know, so-called healing music. Well, be careful,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I appreciate that from like a, wanting to be honest and be pure about the
yeah,
possibilities because everybody's going to experience it
it's
differently.
differently, yeah.
But I know from my own perspective, from my own experience, I should say, that I'm not a hugely visual person normally.
Mhm.
Like I don't have a lot of visions
Yeah,
easily, I would say. But I have like expanded into the cosmos with your music where I'm like,
mm,
oh my goodness, I'm in space. Like I can
uh-huh,
see the spinning of a galaxy in front. I
uh-huh,
don't know more than that.
yeah,
I don't know what I was looking at, but I could see like this spinning um galaxy was as far
sphere,
as I could
yeah,
tell. And then
wow,
with the last one,
uh-huh.
it was like I took mushrooms or something. I had honestly, I was seeing like all these colors and like shapes, and they were
Wow.
dancing around. There were like feathers that had like formed into this, and they were dancing. I don't know. They formed into this shape. I think it was like a spherical thing, and then they were dancing and like lining up. I don't know. It
Wow,
was like a
that's
trip.
crazy. Now I wanna go to my own sound immersion.
I know.
It's a
Yeah.
very clean way to experience something cool, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was like, I don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
that was a
Wow, that's
pure,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. And that's just, that's not even counting just the pure relaxation that comes,
Right,
that's kind
right.
of low hanging fruit,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
in and of itself going to put you in a healing space,
Mhm.
at
Right.
least like through that relaxation, through that peace and that calmness. That's where you start to at least have fertile ground
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
healing to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and, I mean, I would never, want to sound discouraging about that being the case, but what I try to be is guarded about, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of I know people, musicians, and that, will kind of exploit that sense of that, and I don't think
Hmm.
that's very respectful,
Yeah.
so I just present as you may have a very positive or opening experience with that, and then I
Mhm.
just collect stories from people that tell me things, and it can be quite moving. I
Mhm.
did another thing at Blooming Life. I think it was last summer that I did. I brought a sound immersion, and it was a class of children that came who, well, they were
Oh.
teenagers. They were
Oh,
teen.
was it for a university high school or
No,
something? Or?
I did that, but this one
Uh,
was for, I'm not sure what the school or if it was several schools, but it was for these teenagers somewhere on the spectrum
okay. Oh, beautiful.
learning. And so it was, it wasn't as pin drop silence as you might expect and things like
Yeah.
that. But the surprise for that, I did see it like help relax, and then some of the kids were
Mm.
really engaged in it. But the most like uh, profound thing to me was one of the teacher aides who came up to me, like almost tears in her eyes. She said she never experienced something like that. She started out with telling me, like, I think she said like 16 months ago, her son, her teenage son, had been murdered.
Oh my
And she
gosh.
said today she saw him, she was with him, she was in a
Oh,
white gown, and I was like freaking out,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I was like, because like I said, the music, this thing is not me, obviously.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
something kind of moving through me, and I don't take any, except for the hard work I've done, like I said, studying,
Yeah.
knowing my instrument, and being faithful to practice and openness. But that just stunned me, you know. I mean, the experience she had.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
amazing.
it was. Yeah, yeah. So
Beautiful. So, and I know in that humility, you know, there's, um, again, I appreciate what you're doing, but I found it interesting at the end of the last one at the yoga studio.
yeah,
We were all kind of gathered around and playing with
yeah.
with the
The
singing
bowls and stuff.
bowls, and
Yeah,
but you were talking about like the different notes and the things that they do. And I know
right.
that was something that I talked about with Geraldine Glass on a previous podcast as well, was the different impact, like how the different notes resonate within the human body and things like that. So are you, even though it is impromptu,
Uh-huh.
is there a little bit of formulation into what you want to stimulate, or is it pure just
Well,
what's
it's
in
a
the
little
moment?
bit, it is a lot in the moment. And I think of shapes a lot. Like I
Oh,
think of like, what am
interesting.
I building here? Yeah.
Oh, like
And textures.
geometrical?
Yeah,
Okay.
geometrical.
Oh, how
And
interesting.
yeah, and then I can be aware, like my one purple bowl, you know, I know that that's, you know, like ajna,
Mm.
that pitch. And then I know that the another bowl is the heart chakra, and another
Mhm.
one's, you know, throat, and you know, but yeah, it's really, it's very like building architectural kind of textures.
How
uh, is
interesting.
kind of how I see it. Yeah,
Yeah. That I find that really fascinating because sound is so ethereal and like pure vibration. So it's not tangible. But then the way that you're seeing it is
yeah.
almost like in a tangible
Yeah, it's a scene and a
way.
feeling, kind of, you
Yeah.
know, the shapes. And um, another, I mean, I should let you ask the questions, but this is
No,
kind of, and
please.
okay, because
Yeah.
this is kind of like a shift I've seen from my first album, uh, 2012, actually. I released two that year. And the shift from there to what I'm about to have released on Friday, so that's a chunk of time and a chunk
Mhm.
of growth. Um, but I used to kind of describe the way I would approach, you know, like the sound, like a sound painting, like colors and, you know, variation and soundscapes. It was not, it was in the beginning, it was more two-dimensional. And as I
Okay.
learned to work like with more space, like by the time I did like Scattering Stars or Seventh Wave, that was still very tonal and textured, and it was looking for um, sound with a variety of instruments. Both those albums are a lot more than solo guitar. In fact, there's not a single solo guitar piece on either one.
Oh,
There
okay.
are all kinds of different instruments. I borrowed like a slotted tongue drum from the Playful Soul for
Mm.
a melodic phrase that goes throughout each Good Rain, and I mean Never Odd or Even, and Page of Cups.
Mhm.
And then I have, you know, the didgeridoo I have here. I have all kinds of Native American flutes. At the bowls, I borrowed harmonium. I have various different stringed instruments, cello. So all these kinds of sounds, and the instruments themselves provided kind of the colors and the textures. And
Okay.
now I fast forward to the creation of this last album and the couple solo guitar albums. I did Short Stories 2018, Sage 2019. These are both guitar albums. But what transitioned for me or shifted for me in this time is that this solo guitar album that's coming out, that is the one where things got very much more physical, like I was sculpting, like I'm a
How
sculptor, not a
interesting.
painter. And I
Huh.
just feel it so much, the way it is in my hands, the way the sounds vibrate. And I feel like when I'm playing it, I'm building something, you
Oh,
know?
wow.
And it's a really neat thing to tap into, because this album has 24 tracks, 24 pieces.
Oh,
And
wow.
each one is its own, like mini sound immersion, as far as a trip or a journey,
Yeah.
One of them is only, I think about a minute and a half. As one of the reviewers mentioned, she said, it's short, but still effective,
Yeah.
And so that's all you want, just
Yeah.
a complete presentation, whether it's, a tiny building or a building without a ceiling or, whatever
Yeah.
it is. But, the thing that's like, gone from a 2 dimension to 3 dimension. And now I just feel like, almost focusing on just 6 strings like this has just been really fascinating for me, because I bring in the classical background, but also like the finger style background that I've been playing on with steel string and as well as nylon string. So the timbres are still, very important part. The textures are important. The
Mm.
phrasing and the stories are important, but it just has, I just wonder if I'm sitting there, shaping a dome or shaping, what
Yeah.
it is. And I'm really excited to keep working this way, because a lot of, I'm not the kind of person that ever set out goals for myself. I've always been a
Mhm.
little bit tripped up by that. I don't know if that's in the category of fear of failure, fear of success, but
Yeah.
I've always just been like, no, I'm an artist, stop, and I know we hide behind that too, right? We absolutely do. But I've not been, I've not been, I don't lack for any creativity. It's like a
Mhm.
faucet, and I'm grateful for that. I'll never brag about that. I hope that didn't sound braggy, but it's
No, not at
just a
all.
fact.
Yeah.
That I just feel like it's all out there. Be open,
Mhm.
meditate more, make me
Yeah.
show up more
Yeah.
for you. And just be tapped into that. And it's just it's it's a personal experience, but it's wider than that, because as you said, it brings other people these experiences that they also
Yeah.
benefit. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm curious, as you're talking about building these things and
Yeah.
how it shapes and how
Mhm.
you work to shape,
Yeah.
is frequency a part of this as well? Is that part of the building or the consideration? Or do you know what frequency you usually end up in?
I'm in that stage of intuition for building it. I'm not
Mhm.
in like one of the things I do a lot is uh, go out of standard tuning, just tune my guitar differently.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and sometimes I won't even let myself know what key or what notes I'm playing until after I write it. I'll say, oh, okay, so that was a
Mm.
B,
Oh,
or
interesting.
that was,
Uh-huh.
yeah, because I don't want to jump into conventional thinking. I mean, that's
Uh-huh.
theory will bring you around to certain things, or say, like there's all this kind of like teaching and explosion of people making music and Spotify, like, you and I
Mhm.
can put a tune on there tonight. If you decide to start rapping a meditation, I'll do it with you. So
Yeah.
there's an explosion of creativity, and sometimes in quotes.
Yeah.
And oh, I a little bit lost my train. Oh, so there's there's apps that will tell you, okay, after this chord, you should use this chord, and after
Oh,
this,
really?
yeah, because it is theory is a science, but
That's
it
true.
doesn't
Yeah.
bring you to, theory is always written, and the theory we're based on is still, somewhat in the Baroque period.
Oh,
I mean, obviously it's changed, and jazz has been an amazing element to kind of go up against traditional kind of aspects of theory like that. But you're never going to break new ground with that kind of thing,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So I like to feel the vibration. It's very physical, because the guitar is against your body,
True. Yeah.
and but the thing with the hands lately has been, like, it's how a potter is at their pottery
Yeah.
wheel, and then you're at this, and um
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but I don't, again, I won't sit out and say, I know there's some keys I love, or there's some keys I see color in. Like D major, I always see orange,
Really?
Yeah, but I'm not a consistently, uh, nothing, things aren't reliable, like to
Yeah.
always be,
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't go up a scale like that. I know some people can translate sound into painting, or
Mm-hmm.
because they hear a sound and it's a color, and it's very, again, very fascinating brain/mind stuff that we know
Yeah.
little about, but
That
yeah,
is.
it's all intriguing, and until now, this works for me, but I like that somehow I'm always guided to do things new. I like the
Yeah.
new. I know new.
Which is the creator state,
Yeah,
which is
right.
really utilizing yourself in creation, which
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
part of the thing,
The
I
process.
think.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my husband's fate too, because I improvise a lot in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So dinner might have. In fact, my daughter will be even more supportive of that, because if I make something she just thought was great, I say, "Well, really, you need to really enjoy that, because
Yeah.
I'll never be able to make it again."
Yeah, right. I am similar, but I do not have a very supportive audience in my cooking. It's always
Yeah.
like, oh God, can we eat out? Mama
Oh
cooked
gosh.
again.
Yeah. Well, I borderline some of that, but it isn't my daughter talking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have alluded a few times to your new album. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you specifically if you could
Uh-huh.
tell us a bit about it.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
yeah, well, please
Oh,
go
you
ahead.
can,
No,
you have a more direct question?
I'm
Yeah.
curious about, I guess I want to know about your new album in particular. I'm also curious about how you talked about some of them just being quick hits,
Yeah.
and um, are you, are, is it one experience, the whole album made up of different parts? Like, do you intend to be fluid with the pieces so that they kind of create one bigger thing? Or is it meant to be more of like a separate, did you say there were
Right.
24
24 tracks.
tracks?
Yeah.
So are they
Yeah.
more meant to be separate tracks, or to be one
Well,
bigger thing?
yeah. So like, one of the there's like 3, 4 reviews out already, and one of them is like, you can take it, track by track, but please experience this, it's 60 some minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Experience this as a whole, because it does work. And
Yeah.
in fact, I would, when the opportunity is there to perform, it would be pretty wild to do the whole thing from start to finish, although there's a lot of changes of key, and tunings and capos, but with
Mm.
patience, I could present.
Yeah.
But so it, of course, I see it as a whole, but they exist separately. And the streaming world is something that's kind of, blown apart the idea of an album.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I have many of my peers in the music world who are just releasing a single a week, or a single every 2 weeks, or, and it's just
Mm.
like, it was pretty disciplined for me and the Mindstream label, encouraging my discipline here, to say, okay, you're just releasing, one album. Let's do this. It'll be uh, really a presentation and a debut for this label, because this label is a
Oh,
really
okay.
interesting new kind of thing. Yeah, looking at how we experience music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mindstream, spelled with a Y. Yeah.
Right.
So, so in any event, it's the album started out with me a little bit, kind of started recording last year, like late August, September. My daughter was senior in high school, and my husband had some evening activities too. Like, I just remember this construction behind my house was still going on, for a new neighborhood,
Mm.
had been going on for the last 3 years. And it'd been like, how does, how does an artist keep a home studio going for 3 years with
Yeah.
this constant, so I kind of like figured out my way.
Mm.
I'd have an empty house, like on Friday night, Saturday night, if they were out, they'd be done with all the machinery behind this house. And it was kind of a safe bet if I would just start recording that I could capture, what I wanted. So the initial, I don't know, there was maybe 16 pieces that I captured just really raw in the moment, thinking, wow, this is cool. And I literally would turn one of the tuning pegs and not know what tune, I didn't even measure what it was, if it was originally an E, if I put an E flat, okay, if I put a D, I don't know. I just play these pieces,
Yeah.
and over the course of a couple weekends, with different tunings and different capos and different size capos, I had this I thought pretty cool, and I was thinking of it like guitar haiku,
Oh,
because there
cool.
were these
Yeah.
brief, beautiful moments, complete in themselves, but one of them actually was 40 some seconds.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
long story short, I needed them mastered. I sent it to a friend in Chicago for some mastering, but my recording itself was a little, I'm not an engineer, and I don't
Yeah.
have expensive equipment at all. It's all, um, it's home studio that I've done a great job with
Mhm.
till now. So he mastered them, and the 16 tracks, they were pretty nice, but like audio quality, the pieces were beautiful. I loved how they were written, but the audio quality was still a little bit like, I wasn't so sure. So meanwhile, somebody, a music person on that I'm friends with on Facebook, just became A&R for this new label, Mindstream, and I congratulated him, and then he said we should talk.
Ah.
And I was like, oh, this is exciting, because other
Yeah.
things had been falling by the wayside, and the label I had been with for a couple years was not working out well, and
Mm.
suddenly, all that got cleared away, and he said, we love this, send me that what you're doing. And I sent it, and he said, we love this, but what we're going to do is we're going to record it all again, and you're going to write me half as much music again.
Oh,
So
okay.
because it was a little short. I think it was 24 minutes or something. It wasn't, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I wholeheartedly embraced that, and started writing and kept writing. And,
Mhm.
and I'm still writing. I mean, I just finished working on some stuff today. I can't turn it off right now because
Yeah.
it's an exciting time. But so we had a plan. I signed with the label. We were going to do this music and record it in Vermont at the studio of, if you know the Windham Hill label that was so big as an introductory
No,
new
no.
age one a little bit
Oh, okay.
time. So, but the likes of Will Ackerman and George Winston and
Okay.
other Michael Hedges, numbers or names that are known in this genre really well. And he was going to produce, and Tom Eaton was planning to be the mastering engineer on that. And this is just, top of the game kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
so obviously that date in May could not work because of the
Yeah.
pandemic. And to our credit, for me and the mastering engineer, I recorded here, and he mastered a very beautiful album. I mean,
Oh,
it lacks for
wow.
nothing. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled about it, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
I
And it went
bet.
through
Yeah.
so many transitions. First I thought I thought that demo was going to
Mhm.
be it. And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't quite get there. And
Yeah.
and this is like, here's where I also am trying to get more disciplined. I didn't write down a single note of any of those
Mhm.
pieces until Michael said, well, yeah, we're going to redo it. And I was like, how did I play this?
Uh,
What was it? I mean, it was like pulling teeth out of my own mouth,
yeah.
trying to find that note or that note. And I spent so much time trying to say, what did I do? And there's a couple pieces, like that 40-second one. I said, it's gone. It's gone. It's
Yeah,
completely,
yeah.
I had it
You
so
wrote
much.
it on
Sometimes I
water.
had, I did. Some of them have 3 capos on them. Some of them have every string tuned in a different way and a capo on it, and it was just like
Yeah.
crazy. But so that's one thing that I've stepped up my scoring, and writing things out and making notes when you have that really good idea, so it can, be revisited.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not the sexy part.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You get all like, oh, this is looking good. And then you
Yeah.
find that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm thrilled about that. It's also been, I've my circle of music friends, like I said, releasing every week, and our data numbers, like Spotify's truly like crazy. They give you like, I could open my app right now and tell you how many people are listening in the world to
Oh,
something of
wow.
mine. So who's not addicted to that?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
is the point of that?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's you really have to kind of reel yourself into reality and what matters, and
Yeah, that takes a
remind people
whole
it's
other kind of
about the
discipline.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people will spend thousands promoting on Spotify something that they're getting, micro pennies for. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's nothing to do with our talk.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
I did want to ask the best way for people to become more acquainted with your work.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my website is just kind of it's a landing point, but then you can jump off there to go for any of my social media following and any streaming, and of course, as of Friday on Mindstream, which is just MYNDSTREAM.com, you'll find me in some of those pretty little circles of their
Mm.
aesthetic on there. But ideally, yeah. Go to my webpage and follow my social media is really powerful and helpful. If you can reach out to me in any way from any of those, and then whatever platform you use for streaming, because
Mhm.
this is a digital only release. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just a sign of the times. I
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
CDs to live
Live
concerts and things
things.
like that, but
Yeah.
there's no point in trying to do the others.
Mhm.
Yeah, a follow and your streaming support, like I know in Spotify, you can follow the artist and those numbers grow. In fact, this week I did, and now I hear I'm being a hypocrite because now I'm going to tell you I have more than 4 million streams now on
Look at that.
Spotify.
Oh my goodness. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is, but the philosopher in me says, so what?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's got to be I mean, I'm grateful for that. The main thing is you just want what it is you do. In my case, music and create it. You just want it out there to help and serve other people.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing how hard we make it for each other to serve each other,
Yeah.
or how hard this world and this mentality uh, of this kind of life is like, we just don't value it enough. We're not valuing these things that are the best for our growth,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I know also you do live, as we mentioned, you do the live sound immersions, and I know you put those on social media. So if people are local and they want
Oh, for
to
yeah,
hit
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
so those will be on social
the
media.
chant. Yeah,
And then you also do these house concerts. I've had you at my
yeah.
house
That's so
doing
fun.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was beautiful. So you
yeah.
came in and I had a few friends over and you
Mm.
performed and it was very elegant. I mean, I
Oh,
felt like such a grown up. I was like, look at me with
yeah.
a musician in my
In
house
your
and we're
court.
all being grown ups watching, this beautiful
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, that's
so that's an
the
amazing,
intimate thing is, I mean,
yeah.
you don't want to just like look out at throngs of people.
Hmm.
You want to like look in someone's eyes in this small gathering and really experience it heart to heart.
Yeah.
That's what I like. And, again, I figured we make our plans, but we have this time now where, were suddenly an empty nest in my home, right? My daughter
Mhm.
just, and I was like, okay, that'll be late August. She'll be there. September, my albums come out. I'll be touring with my album. I'll be playing concerts all around, and
Mm,
she won't worry about and be sad that she's not here. But look what
yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
I do have a YouTube channel. I started a series even that I called Virtually Yours, Michelle
Mm.
Qureshi.
Oh, I
And I
love
got a
that.
lot of music videos up there that,
Okay.
if people want to also check that out, that's again, just under my name, Michelle Qureshi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, be sure you send me anything because I put the show notes. I'll
Okay,
have any links that are helpful for people to dive in.
great.
So
Yeah.
any listeners, be sure you go and check out the show notes so you can get hooked up with Michelle. It'll be
Mhm.
good for your soul. Trust me. Good. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. This was so much fun.
Oh, I just always enjoy your company. You know that.
Oh, thank
This was
you.
sweet. Thank you.
Likewise. Likewise. Thank you so much. And Michelle has agreed to let me have a piece that we'll be playing as we close out here. So enjoy. What's the name of this one again? I'm trying to
Watercolors from Sage,
from
whichever you
Sage, from the
sure.
album Sage.
Yeah.
Yes. So enjoy, and I look forward to the next meditation conversation.
Thank you.